Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts.
I'd like to George.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of Best Served Code, Joe's first standalone, and the next First Law entry after the original trilogy. On this episode, we review the Arts of Persuasion and the Life of a Drinker. So, let's get started. As usual, want to thank the audience for your continued support. Speaking of your support, we will be engaging in a fun little community interaction segment later on around that and some other things. But we want to thank you all for your continued support.
Yeah, everybody that sent us, everybody that's been messaging us and encouraging us with all your nice praise and advice and lectures sometimes, which is, it's nice. It's good. Everybody likes to learn. It's good.
Yeah, everyone likes to be lectured for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, learning is good. Learning is a good thing, Joe.
Boo learning. All right.
Don't go to college. It's for the poor.
University's a scam, man. Everybody should go into the trade schools. Anyway, and we just want to remind you all to follow us on social media and our YouTube page. And we just want to remind everybody that we appreciate you. We appreciate your continued support, your dedication to this haphazardly put together podcast. Really,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful.
Although people said just you've got to be consistent, releasing the same day, and they were right. That's all you have to do. We're multimillionaires now.
Yeah, we're great.
We made a whole $1.37.
That's right. We were at Comic-Con in Copenhagen.
Copenhagen. Nice. Nice. No, but seriously, thank everybody. The Reddit community, First Law House of the Meme Maker, the First Law Discord, Instagram community. You guys have been great.
There's still a few chapters left on the Best of Cole memeing every chapter, so go and sign up for that on House of the Meme Maker right now.
Yep. And by the time this recording airs, which is on Friday, we'll have already passed the free-for-all for Cardati's House of Leisure, which, folks, it's going to be a doozy. So, obviously, you can't retroactively go back to that, but just go over there and sign up if you haven't. Sir Spaceman, great guy,
Good guy.
He is a great guy. Great guy.
I mean, I heard he strangles ducklings, but great guy. Anyway, so let's move on. Let's move on to our first chapter read through. And this is the Arts of Persuasion. All right, folks, we are in the perspective of Monza Mercado, fresh off of her glory victory lap, dancing on the corpse of Malthus. And now they are, they're in Sapani. Obviously, they met up with Atari, her and Shivers. And now they're in the streets of Sapani. And she's just chilling inside of a doorway, waiting, it seems like. Now, she's just waiting in the darkness. She's wishing for her husk pipe, because right now, at this point, she's cracked out. Right, boys? That's it. Full blown.
Oh, yeah, she's fully addicted now.
She's fully addicted. She's just all...
And who can blame her? She spent, 6 weeks being in incredible pain?
She should be stronger. Hello. As a woman, it's not enough. Don't you know?
Are women not people too, Jeff?
They are people, but they need to be more.
I'm just saying, if somebody was an alcoholic to the point that they should definitely be dead in real life, and that's okay. That's relatable. Man, drug addiction?
Well, I think it is slightly different because when you're in that much pain, you can literally need the painkillers to stop you going into shock. If you go into shock for too long, you have a stroke. It's literally a life-saving measure.
When you're medicine. Ugh. Anyway.
Hey, to be clear, George, we're pro-drugs.
Oh, yeah. We are pro-drugs. If that wasn't evident during George's visit here. Anyway.
What?
No, I'm just messing around with you.
I was going to say, did I forget that?
He did so many drugs. No, I'm kidding. So Mons is waiting in a doorway, a darkened doorway, looking out into the street, and it seems like apparent that she's waiting for somebody. We hear a voice out in the darkness, or at least the street lit darkness, and it's a woman's voice, and she's yelling at somebody to hurry up. She doesn't mean to be late again. She's looking pretty dapper, nice bright red coat and everything. And then out of nowhere, Vitari, I guess, is on the other side of the street and blows a whistle. And that whistle is a signal. And what that signal is that Shivers came out of nowhere, pinned the servant's arms to the side, and then Friendly comes up right next to him and just gives him a "how do you do?" and punches him right in the gut, doubles him over. Now the woman is gasping, scared, appropriately so, right? And she doesn't know what to do. She's looking around, and then Vitari comes out and she yells out, "Carlot Dan Eider, unless I'm much mistaken." Boom, boom, boom. Ladies and gentlemen, Carla Dan Eider has made a reappearance. Remember her.
That's a first law reference right there.
That's a first law reference. We remember her from Before They're Hanged and Last Argument of Kings as the woman that tried to, aka, save the Cosca, also known as selling it out from underneath the Union to the Gurkish.
She had good reasons, though. She had good reasons.
She's trying to prevent bloodshed. Valiant, noble, altruistic reasons, which we know have their place.
I wouldn't go that far.
We know they have their place in the First Law universe, right? So anyway, Carla is now freaking out, and she is starting to back up towards where Monza is at in the doorway because her eyes are on Vitari, and she tells her, "I could pay you. I have money." And Vitari goes, "Don't worry about this. Don't worry about money. I was surprised when I learned that Prince Ario's favorite mistress was in Sapani." What? Sapani? What? She's a mistress. Yeah. Anyway.
This is Sapani.
This is Sapani.
City of whores. City of bores.
City of whores. City of bores. City of princes. City of mistresses. City of whores, city of bores. You killed me. I hate you. And then, and so then, Carlotte's like kind of negotiating. As she's walking backwards, she says, whatever the League.
What?
I said, hold on. Carlotte is backing up continuously towards the doorway. She tells Vitari, "I'll pay whatever the League of Eight are paying you. I'll pay them more." She kind of interrupts them, Vitari, as she goes, "I don't work for them, and I'm hurt by that assumption. Don't you remember me from the Cosca? I remember you selling the city to the Gurkish, or at least trying to. Don't you remember getting caught?" And then she lets her little fancy blade chain thingy drop down to the ground. Now Carlotte's like, "What the fuck?" And then Carlotte goes, "I've done everything he's asked. Everything. Why would the cripple?" No, apparently Carlotte is working for the cripple, but Vitari says, "No, I don't work for the cripple anymore. I've gone freelance." Dun, dun, dun.
It's interesting to see how much fear Glockta still inspires from 1,000 miles away. Yeah.
Well, we kind of remember from the end of Last Argument of Kings that he basically he told her to go to Talons and and instill herself as basically a spy. Yeah. So we kind of know that. Assumingly, Vitari knows a degree of that. That's why she knew she was here. But it is interesting that she's instantly like, "Oh no, not the cripple, please."
Because here's the thing: Eider is still working for Glockta. At this point, she is.
And let's be frank, right? That isn't Glockta's style, is it? He wouldn't just have somebody shanked in the street randomly. He'd want to be there personally.
Not for every person. Well, for Eider, sure. Yeah. Eider, he'd travel to Talons. But for every little person, no. The lions don't mess with sheep or whatever that dumb quote is. Anyway. So
I've met lions. The males are quite dumb. The That's a future reference. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Anyway, so Ida turns around after Vitari drops her little blade thing, and she runs into Monza. And now Ida is confused. She goes, "Oh, what the fuck?" So Vitari closes the door behind him and shoves Ida a couple times, so Ida falls, and basically forces her to enter this living room. And Day is there. Day is chilling and eating a plum, eating as usual. She offers Ida a plum, I guess. Ida's just confused. Goes, "What? No, I don't. No, I don't want to." And then now it's Vitari and Monza, and they're kind of hovering over Ida, and they go, "Oh," well, at least Vitari says that history moves in circles. Time is a flat circle. And she goes, "Who would ever thought that we'd meet like this again? It's almost enough to bring tears to our eyes." And but at this point, Ida is sitting in a chair now, and now she's sitting with a sense of pride, dignity, integrity. Her back is straight, chin is
just like
high.
she did when Glockter interrogated her before they hanged. Like he's also struck by the fact that she hardens when questioned.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yes, the initial one, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And she's still looking elegant, beautiful, gorgeous. She's slaying, as the kids say. And Vitari is kind of prodding now here and there. She goes, "You're doing well. Always did know how to land on your feet. Isn't it quite the tumble, though? From the head of the Guild of Spicers to Prince Ario's whore."
She's like, "Yeah, well, there's worse things that you can be."
Yeah,
I mean, it's his Stefani.
Go ahead.
No, that's all I was gonna say this time.
Oh, okay, I was ready. Ida, she says,
"City of Dumbs, City of Plums."
I love that you first said as a question.
Yeah, thank you, George. And Ida, she just doesn't even flinch. She says, "It's a living," which this is going to be a recurring bit. She asks Vitari, "What does she want?" Vitari says, "Look, we just want to talk, but if we don't get the answers we want, then I'm going to have to hurt you." Ida says, "Yeah, of course you'd enjoy that." And then Vitari goes, "It's a living," and then proceeds to punch her right in the fucking gut. So,
right in the ribs.
Right in the body.
A little unnecessary, probably.
A little.
But,
a little.
Well, that's what she's there for, right? That's literally what they hired her for.
Yeah, she's an enforcer.
To torture people.
And Vitari is good at her job. We know this from the first trilogy. She asked Ida if she would like a 2-piece, another, and Ida goes, "No, I'm good. I'll be helpful. Just tell me what you want to know." And so then they ask her, "Why are you here before Ario?" And Ida starts to equivocate. She says something along the lines of to make arrangements for the ball, costumes, mask, all that kinds of things. And then Vitari just hammers her again in the other side of the ribs now. And Ida is not doing well. And then Ida kind of just admits, she goes, "Ario's putting on another kind of celebration after the ball for Foscar for his birthday."
Well, a little after party.
Little after party, a little shindig, if you know what I mean. And then they ask her, "Well, what kind of celebration?" And Ida says, the kind that Sapani is famous for." What's that like? And then they ask her, "Where's it going to be held at?" "It's going to be held at Cardotti's House of Leisure, folks. The infamous House of Leisure that we don't know of until this point." So anyway, apparently Ario's hired the entire building for the entire night for him and Foscar and for all the homies. And he sent Carlot to make the arrangements beforehand. And then Vitari gets a little, I guess she's confused at this point. She goes, he sends his mistress to hire a horse. But Monza interjects and goes, "That sounds just like Ario,
I think in the audiobook as well, that adds a little bit more character because she's basically just saying it really bluntly, like almost as an insult.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that does work a little bit better.
Harrison, you want to jump in real quick?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and then Monza, to this point, asks her, okay, well, what are the kind of arrangements that you're making? And Carla is apparently she's tasked with finding entertainers to make the place ready, to make sure that it's safe, because apparently Ario trusts her. Dun, dun, dun. And Vittori goes, what an idiot. Anyway, because she wonders what he would do if he really knew who she really was and who she really worked for. The mutual friend at the House of Questions, the crippled friend from His Majesty's Inquisition. Dun dun dun.
Exactly, and that would be a silly thing to do. Put somebody in charge of your arrangements when you don't know them that well, because your arrangements are so important. I mean, that's how a lot of people get power, just by being in charge of who meets who at what time in this big bureaucracy.
Mm.
Yeah, I will say, especially at least the way it's in the audiobook, when she says he trusts me, yeah, but the way he says it in the line delivery, is pretty clever, because it does it helps you realize that Carla is like a spy, but she also is like proud of the fact that she got somebody to trust her again, because she hasn't had that, even though it is just some idiot prince. It kind of shows you where she's at in her mindset, where she's kind of fallen low enough that somebody like Ario, because she has his trust, she feels like she has value now, which is sad.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just how low she's been brought, She's managed to rise up to this point, at least get some more power the second time, after being exiled.
Yeah, that's crazy. Can you imagine? I mean, rising to the top of a merchant guild, incredibly rich and wealthy, competent, good at your job, good at what you do, you're skilled, you're intelligent, you're resourceful, and through machinations of the countries at play, she is brought low because she entered a plot to save people, generally speaking, to save people, and now she's paying for her. I know we joke that it's not altruism, but I'll just call it that for the sake of this. She's paying for her altruism from the first trilogy.
Yeah.
So after Vittori makes fun of her. Vittori makes fun of her for the fact that she's really still working for Glocta, and then Ida kind of just stares right back at her. She goes, "It's a living," so we're continuing this bit, and but then Vittori responds by saying, "It's a dying. If Ario learns the truth, one little note is all that it would take." So Ida is just, "What do you want?" And then Monza comes in here. She goes, "I want you to help us get close to Ario and to Foscar. I want you to let us into Cardades on the night of the celebration. And when it comes to arranging the entertainment, I want you to hire who we say, when we say, how we say. Do you understand?" Ida's not dumb. She goes, "Oh, fuck, you mean to kill them?" And there's a bit of a silence, and then Ida is like, "Orso's going to know that I betrayed him. Glocta's going to know I betrayed him. Though there aren't two worse people in the entire circle of the world," name drop, "to have as an enemy. So you might as well just go ahead and kill me." And then Monza goes, "Okay," takes out the sword. Now Ida's like, "Wait a minute, wait.
I like how she does put up this defense as well. She knows what's happening.
Yeah.
And she knows exactly what's going to happen. She's still just like, "Oh, I've got to protest anyway."
I think she just doesn't like being pushed around without a fight.
Right.
No, exactly.
But I guess, let's think about this, right?
It's still a bit silly, yeah.
Do we want to talk about Carla, like the propensity for people, in this case Carla especially, they know, right, that they're gonna die, or at least they're gonna be on a hit list, right?
Yeah.
So why not just die there? Because I mean,
because you got to. There's still a chance, right? So right now it's 50-50. If I take it, I die. If I don't, I don't. Or the other way around, whatever. You know what I mean?
If I don't take this right now, I die.
Yeah, but if I take the chance and go, then I can find another way out. There's always, there's always that back door. Like people always try and live a little bit longer.
Yep, that's true. I think the only people that wouldn't are people that are ideologically possessed, right?
Yeah, probably brainwashed idiots.
Yeah, like Logan. And that's no choice at all.
Exactly.
Logan's not ideologically possessed. He just wants to stay alive at all costs. I'm talking about who, like somebody would that
like
somebody.
Leo.
Nah, I don't know. I'm saying who's somebody that would say, "Oh, you might as well kill me now," and means it. Like
Glocta.
Glocta.
Yeah.
Glocta doesn't like to lose though.
Well, but he doesn't care about dying.
That's true.
He's definitely consented to dying several times.
Very
if Glocta
true.
was in that position, he totally would have been like,
Yeah.
"It would take me away from this world."
Take me to a world where I can actually eat solid food. All right. So anyway, Monza's digging her sword into Ider's shoulder, her collarbone area, and then Ider kind of caves in, and she goes, "You don't understand that it's not just Orso, it isn't just the Union, that they're both backed by the bank, by Valent and Balk.
Hans Zimmer.
They're both owned by the bank. The years of blood are no more than a sideshow to them." And so we see a couple of things. Obviously, we get a continuation of the fact that Valent and Balk, aka Homie Baez, pew, 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 uh, Baez is not only still in the game, still, puppeteering things, but Eider is a lot more informed than we realize her to be from the previous books, right?
Or even any of the other characters realize.
Actually, she actually was aware of this because she was the head of the Guild of Spicers. Remember, at the end of, I think it was in Before the Hang, she basically was like, "Oh God, not the bank." Remember? Or it was, no, it was at the end of Last Argument of Kings. He was like, because Glockster told her, "Go to the banking house of Valen and Bulk, and they'll give you the supplies that you need."
That's right.
And she was like, and then at that moment she admitted, like, "Oh God, not Valen and Bulk. Those people are monsters." Like, she already knew about the bank, probably from her fighting with them as a, head of the Guild of Spicers.
Yeah, and even from her little monologue in Before They Hang, like she was just saying, like, every single institution, when they take over, all they do is just get greedy.
Yeah,
like every single time, all the way up the chain. Like that's just like a massive theme here, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And then Monza kind of interrupts Eider during this portion where Eider goes, "You don't know who you're messing with, man," about Valent and Balk. She goes, No. You're mistaken. I just don't care. And there's a difference." And at this point, Day, who's been more of a witness than anything, asks out of nowhere. She says, "Now?" Monza goes, "Now?" And then Day just kind of, her hand comes out of nowhere, darts out, and she pricks Eider's ear with the little needle. And then Day goes, "Don't you worry. It's slow working. You've got at least a week." Eider goes, "A week until what?" And then Day goes, "Until you get sick." That's it. And really, really sick. A day after a week, you'll be deader than Juvens. And then Monza basically lays it out. If you help us, you get the antidote to the poison that they just
inflicted you with.
Yep. And you try to tell anyone what we're planning here or in the Union, Orso or Ario, or the cripple, and she gets stabbed. So either way, she'll be dead if she doesn't cooperate, and completely and totally. And then Ida just kind of stares at all three of them, and she goes, "You evil bitches!"
Girl power moment.
Yo, it's funny because this is like a much better. This
Marvel's Endgame.
Yes, Marvel.
This is so good, isn't it?
Endgame, all women power, baby. But this is much better.
This is so believable. These are all fucking established characters. And they're all fucking so good. Every single one of them is just incredible in this chapter.
Yep. You had Shivers and Friendly taking care of the servant, and then we'll see here in a little bit why Morvier wasn't here. But anyway, so Vitari just goes, "Okay, we're done." So And then Monza asks her, "What are you going to tell your manservant when he wakes up?" And then Carla goes, that we were robbed. And so Monza holds out, her hand, and so Ida goes. She takes off her necklace and gives it to Monza, and then she asks her, "Is that convincing enough?" And then Monza says, "I don't know. You seem like a kind of woman that just would put up a bit more of a fight." So then Monza punches her in the fucking face, and now Carla's
also
bleeding.
A little unnecessary.
Very unnecessary, because at this point, Carla's
He's already been stabbed.
Yeah, Monza doesn't have anything particularly against her, does she?
No,
This
but
has got to be like one of her most hateful gestures she's ever done. Let's be real here.
But let's remember though that Carla was punched multiple times in the torso, where it's covered by any bruises would be covered by clothing. So she most likely would want to, leave a mark on her face that's where it's evident.
Yeah, but why would you punch someone in the face if then you were going to go and send them to do your work?
No. She's got to convince her servant that she was robbed.
Right, of course. Okay, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so there's the practical side to that as well.
Yeah, there is a practical side to it. It just comes.
It was the only way. Let's be honest.
It comes across in a humorous way. Monza's being a bitch, all this jazz. Eider looks up after being punched in the face, and there is a look of defiance in a way that this might come back. This might come back to bite him in a bit, some way, somehow. And then Vittori yanks her out, and takes her out. Vittori yanks her out and takes her out into the street, and we're just left with Monza and Day. And Day goes, "Well, nice and easy, nice and peasy, easy peasy, lemon squeezy." And Monza goes, "Well, no thanks to Morvir. Where the fuck is he? Where's your master?" And Day goes, "I prefer employer." And he said that there were some errands that he had to run. And Monza goes, "I paid for
the master, not the dog."
Right. But Day,
I've got to take this picture.
You do it.
Woof woof.
Yeah,
I love it. Day smiles at her first. She's like, "Woof woof." It's so funny.
And then Day says that there's nothing Morvir can do that I can't.
Ooh,
really?
Challenge.
Getting cocky here, bitch.
Yeah. Day goes, "Well, he's getting old, arrogant. That rope burning through was nearly the death of him in Westport. I wouldn't want any carelessness like that to interfere with your business, not for what you're paying. No one worse to have next to you than a careless poisoner." And then Monza goes, "Well, you'll get no argument from me on that." And Day kind of just shrugs. She goes, "Accidents happen all the time in our line of work, especially to the old. It's a young man's or a young person's trade." And then she just walks out. And that's something we should probably talk about in some time. But then Vittori comes back in and she goes, "That's our way in?" It's like, "Yep, that seems like it. Just what I promised you." Okay, great. Ario and Foscar, both together and a way to get them together. Good day's work. And then after Vittori scans the scene of what they just basically perpetrated, she works her tongue around her mouth, and she continues and ends the chapter with the bit, "Well, it's a living."
It's a living.
And that, folks, is the end of our chapter read-through of the Arts of Persuasion. Boys, what do you give this chapter?
I'm going to give it a 5. Okay. I think it's good. I like Carla Donada.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like as an extended cameo, it's a little bit too long. And I enjoy the the whole aspect of them all working together and doing an interrogation that's a little bit different from the way that we saw the interrogations in the last series. They kind of utilize the poison and not as much just brutal violence.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's a development, which is always a good thing, and it's always interesting to see. But it's an extremely long chapter, and
it's not that long.
It's long for just what it is. It's just one scene.
Okay.
Actually, I'd say it feels long now. Looking at it, it's only 4 pages, but it feels longer than it is to me. So I reckon a 5.
Interesting. It's only 4 pages, you said?
Well, 1, 2, 3.
No, it's 8.
Oh, sorry, I meant three leaves. Then, you know what I mean.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
Well, every time you turn the page, you know, you know exactly what I meant, Joe. Fuck you.
I know. Sorry. Harrison, what would you give this chapter?
It's kind of conflicting. I kind of agree with George. It does feel longer, and it's kind of like it just seems like it carries on for unnecessary amounts of time. But and it doesn't happen very often in Joe's stuff either. But it's still, I like that it's like, hey, is this a job? Kind of highlighting the point that everyone is there except for Manta just to do a job. That's what they're there for. And I like the indication that Day is not, just some supplicant. She's got her own agency and her own little thing going on. And I like that Carla, we get update on her, even if I kind of agree with the overstays are welcome a little bit. I think a 5.
I'm gonna give it a 4.
No, after crap on us.
Yeah, I'm just gonna give it a 4 just because.
Oh, because you're misogynist and this is all an all-girl episode? Is that why?
Sure. Sure. You got me. I hate women. I know. No, and honestly,
I'm definitely gonna sample that bit. I'll put you on record, Jeff.
Oh shit!
Put it into the soundbar.
Oh shit!
Put it into the soundbar.
No, the reason I'm gonna give it a 4 is it is a little long, just for the not the resolution, but the end result. But again, not a bad chapter, just a little long. Okay, boom, we get we get an introduction to Carlotta and Eider, and then we find out that she's gonna be their way into Cardati's House of Leisure for this event with Ario and Foscar. That's pretty much that's the bare bones of it. So that's why I'll give it a 4. Yeah,
and again, like nobody's saying these chapters are bad, by the way. Like, we still think the writing is incredible.
Right. That's what. Yeah. Exactly. All right, boys. Thank you for that chapter read through and your thoughts on that. So let's move on to our next segment, which is our best meme of the week. As usual, Georgie boy, that is yours. Take it away.
Yeah, we've got user on Reddit, Mr. Vulture. And I fucking absolutely love this one. It's the picture of Baez from, I think it's the graphic novel version of the first one, The Blade itself, which only had like 4 issues, I think, which is an absolute shame because the art is really, really, really good. And it's if Khalil sent 100 words to destroy you with overwhelming numbers, would you lose? Nah, I'd win and turn Adua into Chernobyl while I'm at it.
Now I want well, it doesn't make sense, but in Chernobyl, Jared Harris's character is very dismayed at the events of Chernobyl. But I think in an ironic twist, it should be him as Baez, but bald, obviously.
Oh, Jared Harris is Baez.
Ooh, that's a fan cast for you.
That's a very strange fan cast for you.
Yeah, I like it. It's not a left field, folks.
Because he's a very slightly built man, and Baez is definitely heavy set, right?
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's the meme, right?
It's excellent, and thank you very much, Mr. Vulture, for that.
Mr. Vulture, thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. All right, thank you for that, George. So we'll move on to our second chapter read-through, which is The Life of a Drinker. Ooh, and we start this off with a drink. Where can a man find a drink? Whose perspective are we in? Nakomo Cosca, famed soldier of fortune, is broke, destitute, and fucked up. He's just all kinds of manners of.
I can imagine. Oh, God, have you never been there, right? When you either the first time or one of the first times you get drunk and you're just looking for something and you're just like digging around and you're absolutely clueless. You don't even know what you're looking for or why. You're just like looking for something. This guy is doing that right now. Like, you can imagine that.
Yes, he isn't doing great. He is broke, penniless, hungover, maybe, or going through the stages of withdrawal, wandering the streets of Sapani, I believe, and he would just give everything he owns just for another drop of grape spirit. And grape spirit, at least in our world, and I imagine applies in the first law, is
Brandy.
Brandy.
Welch's.
Yep.
Oh.
Wait, Welch's?
All right, I'm just saying.
All right, notorious B.I.G. Chill out.
Well,
anyway.
brandy or port, anyway.
Right, but it's most likely brandy, I'd say.
I prefer port, though.
You like a good port? I love a good brandy.
I like a good port, though.
Mm-hmm. I mean, port's great, yes, but I'm partial.
Never got brandy. What's good about brandy, Jeff?
Have you never drank a brandy?
All I remember is the very sour. It's like kind of like rotten strawberries.
What?
That's all I ever got from it.
I don't know what brandy you're drinking.
Maybe it's an acquired taste. Maybe.
No, maybe it's a British brandy issue. I don't know, but
I'm talking about cognac, man.
Jeff always makes it about region.
I do, absolutely.
Is it because you're from Oklahoma? What?
No, it's because he's from the hood, man.
What are you from the north side? You piece of shit.
I'm just saying, brandy's good. Like, good brandy is good. We'll talk about this later, George. But anyway, Nakomo is broke and he's destitute. He's walking around, wandering around, pleading with the gods for some kind of comeuppance. And what he gets is we hear a voice in the distance going, "Fuck off, away and piss, you beggar." We get, people that are just...
Which is an unfortunate look into the life of homeless people when they're asking for money.
Yep. Yeah, you get a lot of shut your mouths. You get a lot of fuck offs.
Away and piss, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say that, but...
Yeah, no, that's a new one. That's a new one.
I will say, yes, the guy is pretty harsh, and unfortunately this happened. However, Cosca deserves it, yeah.
Yeah, if we could talk about where we last left Nakomo Cosca, this man was paid
I think it's an exorbitant amount of jewels.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is probably why, despite it being 3 to 4 years, this is why it's taken him that long to get this low again.
Yeah. He's not doing great, and he's not doing that great, and he yells out after somebody says away and piss. He goes, "I am the Nakomo Cosca, famed Captain General of the South."
Oh my god! And you got it so close to the audiobook.
Oh really?
This part is so good at portraying him as just all the clipped sentences and the slurring and everything like that. It's just so perfect. It's incredible.
It almost makes you think Pacey was wasted.
Yeah. Bet he was. I bet he went through withdrawal just for the...
Yeah. Character actor?
Yeah, just honoring
He's the Daniel Day-Lewis of
Yes.
I've abandoned
my boy! And Nakomo, he goes, "I dined at the beds of Jews." And he doubles over, he's coughing, he's on the ground, he's not doing too well. And then he yells out, "Just one more chance, just one last chance, God. I know I asked you for a bunch of last chances before. I know I did, but this one, I swear, is the last chance."
He, in fact, never believed in God.
Right? And then out of nowhere, we hear a voice, "All right, one more." And Cosca goes, "Oh, God? Is that true? Is that... Wow?"
Not quite.
Not quite. And it's a woman's voice. And he kind of is like trying to... He's still drunk. Remember this. drunk but also in withdrawal, and he goes, "Oh, wait a minute, who's out there? If I owe you money, get ready to die." And then, because he burps in the middle of his speech right there, and then, and then out of nowhere, Shiloh Vatari has found the Como Cosca, and he goes, "Oh, I never thought I'd run into you again. Do you think you can buy me a drink, please?" And she goes, "I can get you some goat's milk." He goes, "Disgusting! How dare you offer me milk, goat's milk?"
Foreshadowing.
It's good for the digestion.
It's good for the digestion. We get another little a drink insert here.
And what a fucking phrase! It continues throughout the book, but a drink is just.
That's Cosca's line.
It's Cosca. It's not just his line, but it's just his mantra, isn't it? Like you can tell. Whenever you read back and read him in Before They Hanged, The Last Argument of Kings, and forward in Red Country, you can just see him thinking that every single line, like just like
sure. For sure. Vatari even says, "How long have you been drunk this time, and how long you wasted all this money?"
I think it was summer when I started,
but not the same year.
what is it? What is it now?
He should be totally dead.
Yeah, this man has blew through all that money.
It's just like those people that win the lottery and just spend it all and just end up going back to their original lives like after like a year or two.
Yes, exactly right.
Mm-hmm. And Vatari goes, "Look, you need to make a change. You don't need to spend some change," because he had asked her for if she could spare some change for a drink. And then he kind of flips out a little bit. Not flips out, but he is honest and self-aware at this point where he goes, "Do you not realize that there's a big part of me that knows that and screams to be released from this kind of torture?" He goes,
Isn't that interesting though? Like, is he actually making a genuine plea for help, or is this just like another one of his drunken stupors?
I don't know about either. I think he's not making a plea for help. I think he is admitting his faults, but he doesn't care, and he wants what he wants.
He's only doing it because he sees a benefit in it.
Well, I think that he's so drunk that he's just saying whatever at this point, and that is he is answering honestly. I mean,
I don't think he's actually drunk at this point because he's shaken, so he must be going through DTs, right? Through withdrawal. Which is even worse. That is even worse, I grant you.
Yeah, that's just a good point. Yeah. Well, still, I don't think he's doing it just to get something out of it. I think he just is like completely out of anything. So whatever will get him anything.
Nobody can blame anybody for doing something when they're that desperate, when their entire body and nervous system is screaming at them to get some help.
Yeah.
Like you'd fucking do anything, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do anything, that's for sure.
Edit that out, George.
Yeah, let's edit that out, George. And then Cosca, he says, for a man to change. Cosca, he says, for a man to change, he needs the help of good friends, or better yet, good enemies. All his friends are long dead, and his enemies, he's forced to admit, have better things to do. And then out of nowhere, we hear a voice that says, "Not all of us." And this voice is another woman's voice, but this voice possesses a stronger sense of familiarity for Cosca. Feels it in his spine. And he goes, "No." And he remembers when he first...
I've got to say as well, sorry, Jeffrey. It's when he says it in the audiobook, he's like, "No."
Oh, really?
No.
I didn't know that. That's great.
Also, as a side note, real quick, when he says that line, like, you have to have good friends or worse enemies. That is perfect, because that is some really, really good foreshadowing and like really, really good like character setup for him in this book. I just think that's excellent.
Yeah.
That line.
Yep. And then in his mind's eye, he remembers the moment that he first laid eyes on this person, a wild-haired girl of 19, which we should probably go back to because remember we talked about this before.
And I was right.
You said 19. You said 19.
I didn't say 19 specific. I said 18 to 20, somewhere in that range.
Okay, perfect. Okay. A wild-haired girl of 19 with a sword at her hip and a bright stare rich with anger, defiance, and the slightest fascinating hint of contempt. And now there's a hollowness to her voice, a twist of pain about her mouth, and now there's a hollowness to her face and a twist of pain around her mouth. There's a lot more contempt and defiance and anger in her face. And he had swore 1,000 times over to kill her if he ever saw her again. Her brother, Andice, Victus, Cesaria, Faithful Carpi, or any of the other treacherous bastards from the 1,000 swords.
And I like the fact that this is actually written into before they hanged as well. Like, yeah. He actually mentions this in the first time we ever see Cosca.
Right, when he misspelled Mercado's name.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one.
So it wasn't the same Mercado. There must be another one.
I think
he got betrayed twice by the same woman with two different women with the same name. Who'd have saw that coming, eh?
Yep, no, that's what happened. They betrayed him. They stole his place from him, sent him fleeing from the battlefield at Affieri. So, our boy, Affieri. And he had sworn so many times to kill her, but when he sees her actually in the flesh in front of him, he's different. He kind of cries, right?
Yeah, he's absolutely emotional at this point. Like, this is a complete blast from the past. He's just been living on hope and a prayer on fumes for what, like 10 years at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Just going from job to job, do whatever he wants. He literally tried to throw his life away into Cosca, just leading the front lines, do whatever the fuck, like, doesn't give a shit.
That's why he was so brave.
Exactly.
Well, and he always finds a way out, though, too. But yeah, one thing I want to mention, he is crying, or he's technically weeping, but because his eyes are so bloodshot, no one could tell the difference. And,
oh, I bet Monza could.
Maybe. And he tells Monza, he goes, "Oh, I heard you were dead. I was gonna take revenge, of course, but..." And she goes, "For me or against me?" He goes, "Difficult to remember." He stops on the way for a drink. And, they're...
Stopped on the way for a drink. It's just such a good line as well.
He stopped on the way for a drink.
You can use that for an excuse for anything. I was going to do this, but,
Yeah.
Stopped on the way for a drink.
And then Monza says, "I heard you finally got yourself killed in Cosca." He goes, "There have always been false reports of my death. Wishful thinking on the part of my many enemies."
Which is the exact same line that he says to Glocto in Glocto season after he thought he died in the Cosca.
What did he say? "Reports of my death have always been falsely
exaggerated
by my enemies," or something like that. That's great. I love it. And then he asks her, "Where is your brother? Where is Benna?" She just simply says, "Dead," and her face didn't change. And he goes, "Shame. Sorry about that. I always liked the boy," but internally he goes, "I hated that cocksucker."
Yeah. Which is one of our first hints into, somebody else's perception of Benna apart from Monzo.
Yeah, because no one else knew him other than Cosca at this point that we have met.
Yeah, not in their mind's eye. You're right about that.
And it's interesting too, because from Monza's perspective, she doesn't actually think about Benna yet, like who he was. Like, it's too painful for her to think about. She kind of just ignores that feeling and takes Husk instead. So she doesn't actually think about Benna specifically. She just thinks about the revenge for losing Benna, and I think that's very intentional. And so this is interesting that Cosca, who we do know as a character, is like so against him because he always is so like chill all the time. So to have him, like, in his own mind at least, be like, I fucking hate that guy, it's completely different to him being like, oh, as we see with Friendly here in just a second, he's like, why can't a man be both? So it's...
Cosca is extremely amiable, so for him to turn around and call somebody a lying, gutless, scheming louse is, it's quite selling, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, I mean, because he's basically the same thing.
Yeah, but, as Joe says, we all hate in others what we see in ourselves.
Right. Okay, I get that. Okay, I was gonna say, like, it's not like,
Why does he like Monza? We don't gotta get crazy into spoilers here, but he likes Monza because she's better than he is. That's why. Because he tries to be better.
He could sense. We'll talk about this later on, but he could sense a lot of good things about Monza, and like I said, she said that Monza had said, "Well, Benna had always liked you." Even though after she says that, Cosca thinks to himself, they had detested each other, but what did it matter now? And Cosca goes, well, if only his sister had felt as warmly about me, things might be so much different. Monza replies that might be doesn't do us any good. We all got regrets. So there's a bit of an awkward silence. They're kind of like staring at each other. And Monza goes, well, maybe we should put the past behind us. He goes, I can hardly remember yesterday. He's lying.
He lied.
He remembers very clearly everything that's happened to him. And she offers him a job if he'll take it, if he's up for a job. And he goes, all right, maybe if it's, okay, fighting, sure. Even though he makes a jest, he jokes about how she was always too attached to fighting, that a mercenary has no business getting involved with such nonsense. And then she says, she repeats a phrase that he must have said to her before, where she says, a sword is for rattling, not for drawing. And he instinctively, without hesitation, says, that's my girl. I've missed you.
Oh.
And we really do see, like, Cosca, he cares for Monza. He really does. This, whatever betrayal she did with him, it hits. It hurts.
But this is we've only really had a bare bones story. Like, we didn't have any idea of how close these people were.
Yeah, we don't have any idea yet.
Until this exact moment, right when he first sees her and is instantly terrified, and then going through. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
It is very good. We don't get like detail.
It's so subtle. It's so subtle.
Yes, that's what it is. It's a lot of subtext here. Yes, absolutely.
And I'd love for somebody to do, because none of us are capable of this, but somebody has to do an analysis of the subtext here.
What? Rude? How fucking dare you? We can.
I said none of us are.
Oh my god. Well, we basically are. The reason why we hold back a little bit is because when you first read it, is because of you have a difficult time understanding everything that's going on. First, you're like, oh, I'm in Cosca's head now. You don't know how much he's lying to himself, and is he lying to the other people as well? Because that narrative is always screwy, right? Especially with Joe. And then at the same time, you don't know to what extent what Monza and Benna and his relationship is like yet. So there's a lot of text and understanding that we don't have until later that you then realize is subtext. And you can kind of tell there's something here, but you don't really know what it is until later. So it's kind of difficult to say, but if you've read the book and you reread this chapter, it's pretty incredible. Honestly, all of Cosca's scenes are tied into this one chapter. Like, this is like the most understanding we get of him in a short time period. And it's pretty impressive writing without like pulling us out of the world too much.
So, oh my god.
So you think Harrison, you think there is a lot of subtext here then, right?
Yeah.
That we can pick up on, right? Without any...
I mean, you can see that Cosca is an awful alcoholic. And nobody gets to the point of being an alcoholic without having serious fucking, problems with self-confidence and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
So this guy is literally, despite being quite renowned, has delved in on himself because of this betrayal, or even before, because we know that he was an alcoholic before. No?
Yeah, I mean, we did know he was an alcoholic. Like whenever Glock had paid him to Cosca,
We knew.
and he met back up in the last argument of Kings, he was already out of money again.
Yeah, Glockton had met him in a bar.
And he might be this he might be this conjurer of men where he can just like walk into a town and get loads of recruits because he's just so damn charismatic.
Which he is.
Which he is, but he was also probably drunk at the time, you know. So, you know, being drunk served him up until a certain point.
Well, he says why he gets drunk all the time, right? He intentionally says it to himself. It's because, well, he doesn't want to think about, Vitari is like...
He's constantly running away from his problems. And
right.
he's basically failing upwards his entire life until he hits a point where he's got too much to handle.
Yes.
And he just fucking collapses.
I just find it so interesting. What really drew me in is, and what draws me in each time on the story, is how his relationship with Monza is factored in. It's such a unique, interesting relationship. They're both like unusually like kind to each other, but also both have like they can't get over themselves enough to actually make it a healthy relationship. And it's super interesting to see it from Cosca's side, which is something I never think I was gonna see. But it adds so much to Monza's character as much as it does to Cosca's character. Because we just saw him in this and never got a POV, and then he popped up in Red Country. Our perspective is completely different. We just thought he's a sociopath, but he's not a sociopath. And it's so interesting to see that.
In Red Country, he's basically Custer.
Yeah, Harrison, the thing about the relationship is like Nakomo is really her adoptive father, if you think about it. It's hard to talk about it without getting to spoilers at this point in time, but it is a very much complicated, deep, relationship between Monza and Nakomo here, specifically between those two. Not so much as Benna, and we will get, you could say clues, passages, words, whatever, as to they can illustrate as to why, but it's Monza and Nakomo is maybe in some ways he's the opposite of Japo, her father, in terms of his gregariousness, how he's such a character and outwardly outgoing,
flamboyant,
absolutely all that. But there is a security there that she probably felt with Japo as well, her father.
It seems like Japo instilled ideals, and Cosca instilled skills.
Mm-hmm.
But Cosca is also instilling ideals too. That's the thing. He's teaching her. Now he's just teaching her the mercenary path, you could say, or the path of war. Remember, he's the one.
The first thing he starts with is reading.
Yeah, a book. Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Your average mercenary doesn't have to give a shit about reading.
No, exactly. Now, Japo, if he could, he would have taught Monza how to read, right? But obviously, that time, that life it's all about farmhand work and everything, which totally makes sense. It's fine. It's okay. But Cosca is here to teach her and get another thing I think is kind of overlooked, and I know it's kind of a small detail.
Well,
and I apologize.
He's kind of. Well, the word that you would use like 15 years ago was he's grooming her for command.
Yeah,
which you can't really say.
Actually, unfortunately, you kind of. It's accurate here.
No,
George. It's accurate here. Unfortunately,
you can. No, yeah, it's not unfortunate. Grooming for command is different than grooming for. Fucking.
Well,
anyway,
no, it's kind of both.
My point is that besides that, something else that he did that probably Monza or Benna had not been exposed to for some time after Japo died was kindness. I know it's a small detail, but don't forget that he gave them his cloak when they were cold by the fire, and they had asked him, "What do you want in return for it?" They were suspicious of it. He goes, "Nothing. Just take the fucking cloak." So, one of the first acts of genuine, unrequited kindness comes from Cosca.
Yeah,
this is a very deep and layered relationship that we are going to get into throughout this book.
But the point is that a lot of this relationship, this sets the point here with the subtext in this conversation, in between the conversation and what's going on in his head already, and it's just very, very well written.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Before I continue, George, do you want to say anything else?
I also really find it interesting, this chapter about, it's a very realistic kind of depiction of alcoholism, where he sort of followed a path that he thought was absolutely brilliant until it didn't work anymore.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly what it is with every kind of addiction. Like, you think it's really, really great until the novelty's worn off, and it's just like, oh shit, I'm fucked now. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I think Joe does a really, really, really good job of putting that into your mind.
Yeah. You know what? You're right. I want to talk about that, but not right now. A couple of chapters later down the line, I do want to talk about that, George. For sure. Yeah, because Joe does. He weaves that into the narrative here. He does. But to get back to the chapter, Monza tells Friendly, who was there all along, apparently, to help him up.
He's always there. He's just sitting there in the background, like not saying anything.
Exactly. And then he, I like. Hold on. And then I like how Friendly, is able to pick up Cosca without any issue. And Cosca goes, well, that's a strong guy and a good deed. Is Friendly your name? Are you a philanthropist? And Friendly goes,
yeah, I am a murderer.
No. He just says, Friendly comes out of nowhere. He picks up Cosca, easy peasy lemon squeezy. And Cosca goes, well, that's a strong arm and a good deed. And your name is Friendly, is it? Are you a philanthropist?
A convict.
I see no reason why a man cannot be both. My thanks in any case. Now, if you could just send me to the nearest tavern, please. And then Vitari goes, no. Enough taverns for now for you. And then they joke about that. They don't joke. They say that they need him sober. And he says, I don't do sober. Sober hurts. Fuck that. And so, because he goes, did somebody say a conference? Because Vitari says, we need you because the conference begins in a week. So Monza is watching him, still, steady-eyed and everything. She goes, I need a good man, a man with courage, experience, that doesn't mind crossing Grand Du Corso. And you're as close as we could find on short notice. And Cosca, in his mind, he goes, from that list I have experience.
I'll take one of 4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what Monza says. Yep, that's what Monza says. And then if he needs money, well, then he'll be happy to do it. So and then Cosca goes, we should do a paper of engagement, just like back in the old days with Sir Jam used to write them with red ink and all that jazz. But can we find a notary at this time of day? And never did you mind about that. He's like, okay, all right, fine. And then, so basically they agree that he's willing to do it. He'll take her word. And then she goes, no, I'm sorry, hold on. That he's willing to do it. And then Monza says that she'll take his word that he'll join their little team, the little group, their A team.
The Avengers.
The Avengers, yes. The Revengers. And then he says to her that she must be the only person in Styria who would ever say that to him, that she'll take his word. And then Cosca looks to Friendly and goes, this way, my good sir, and try to keep up. But then he staggers, but Friendly catches him. And Friendly goes, not that way.
Not that way.
No, and then Cosca goes, you are a gentleman, sir.
I am a killer.
I am a murderer.
And then Cosca goes, I see no reason why a man cannot be both.
And it's one of the times that Joe does not fill the comedy rules of 3. Like, he just does two of those, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's still funny.
But funny enough, it's the way he does still do it 3 times if you think about it, because he's looking at Friendly, Vitari, he's watching Monza, and then he's thinking about, okay, those who were willing to cross Grand Du Corso, and that meant madness, or those with no choices. Which was he? Well, the easy was an easy. The answer was an easy.
Oh
breach.
yeah, I didn't think
there
about
was
that.
no reason a man could not be both. Yep, exactly.
That's it. That's good
That's
spot,
the end of
Jeff.
that chapter.
I that's
That's
correct.
A good chapter right there, boys. What do you think?
I think 7 and a knuckle for me. It's really solid. It gives, like we already talked about, gives a lot of insight into his character, and Monza's character means a lot more in future. Like after you reread it, but it's still just really, really well written, and definitely like changes up like the way the book feels, because suddenly we're, instead of just being like revenge, just suddenly there's a lot more character work going on than just like naive barbarian following revenge woman with a party of nitwits. You know, it's actually, we're getting some more meat in our sandwich.
And I mean, you know, there's plenty of subtext in just Monza's story itself, but to have this extra dimension of this character that we'd never really thought anything else about before. I mean, Shivers is been in the series, but he's pretty much still Shivers, right? Mm-hmm. But now that we have this intro on Cosca, we can kind of really, really, really get close to this psyche that's just a bit, well, really fucking fucked up. And that's what Joe is really good at writing. He's good at writing really, really bad people, right, Harrison?
He's really good at writing people.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think I'm going to give it an 8.
Ooh, an 8. Interesting.
Because I just love Cosca's characterization. I absolutely love the way that he's just a hopeless, almost hopeless alcoholic, but he's been given so many chances that he's just absolutely wasted. And he's just still coming back for more. He's like, just give me one more chance, please.
One more chance, boys. Okay.
I just find that kind of hopeless. It's like Sisyphus, isn't it? He's just rolling a rock up the hill. Mm-hmm. Is that Prometheus? I can't remember.
No, it's Sisyphus.
It is Sisyphus, isn't it? The one that yeah. Right. Prometheus got his liver eaten by a bird. Yeah.
Yep. For eternity.
Yeah.
Burning up because he gave man fire.
Well, he's just constantly rolling up this hill of, I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna keep drinking and make my way and make some money. And he always did. Like he did it like 10 times, right?
He's gonna keep doing it, baby, till he dies. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 9 fingers. Thought it was a good chapter, a great reintroduction to Cosca and our world, and we get Vitari, Monza, their interaction with Cosca. We see slightly different but similar dynamics. Vitari is distasteful, but the humor is sardonic. Monza's dynamic with Cosca is distasteful as well, but that's rooted in true, like actually caring about each other, and
it's rooted in true pain.
Yeah, true pain for sure. So enjoy that. I enjoy, the hints of a possible blossoming relationship between Cosca and Friendly, which I love. Nothing too crazy, though. Not the longest chapter, not the shortest chapter. Pretty good. Like it. I'm just happy to see Cosca back in the fold. So 7 out of 9 fingers for me. Well, thank you for that, boys, with our second and final chapter read through. The life of a drinker. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to just move on to our community interaction segment. And I don't want to say we ignored it last time, but we
ran out of time.
We did. And now we're going to talk about our community interaction segment. And this is going to be a bit of a grouping and amalgamation of interactions we've had over the last couple of weeks. First I want to talk about is actually they're all related, right? It's a meme of George that was made on Reddit.
Where I apparently got defensive about somebody criticizing my AI art.
Well, we don't know if that was the case, but we just know somebody came at you, and we will defend your honor, your name to the very death.
It wasn't George. George, they weren't saying that you were being defensive. They were saying that me and Jeff were being defensive.
Because nobody makes fun of my Georgie. No one insults my Georgie. And Yeah. So first of all, the fact that you guys, are still making memes about us, it's fantastic. We love it. I love it. It gives me,
It gives me pride.
pride. I get to go around to my friends. I get to go around to my friends and be like, "Hey, goofballs, you are nobody. People make memes of us, but don't come at Georgie. Don't you ever come at Georgie. I don't give a fuck. I don't care.
It's
I
not
don't.
a big deal.
Shut up.
Not a
Shut
big
up.
deal.
Shut
Stop
up.
it.
Shut up, George. I don't care if George shot somebody. You don't come at George. All right. You don't come at George. If you want to go at George, you come at me. All right.
As the only sober party in this episode today, I can just say that we can just write this one off.
Yeah, defo.
Well, still, we should talk about we got some nice Reddit messages. We got a couple of Reddit messages, and also talking about AI art. So we've posted AI art, and we've talked about it briefly, and obviously, hopefully, George or Harrison, you can pull up the Reddit messages. But we're cool with AI art. We know that it's not.
Well, we don't want to get into the full debate, and we don't want to get into
Let's do it.
why it is theft or it isn't theft or blah blah blah. That's it. We've got to deal with this.
The main point is that there was a nice Reddit user who listens to the podcast, and you know who you are, and he reached out and said, "Hey, this is how the AI art stuff works," and that was very informative.
Yes, yes, it was. He said that he's not anti AI art, and he's not an expert, but basically that it's not constantly grabbing everything on the internet. What it does is the same thing that human artists do, is just in a machine way. It learns some other art and then it makes its own patterns.
Yeah, and different machines are trained on different images, and it's actually a really interesting thing. And there's a whole fucking, that's going to be something that they teach in universities in a couple of years. How to manipulate AI. That is going to be the next big thing.
Right.
And you can't run away from it. So don't be a fucking breaker. They don't end well. Have you not read the books?
But yeah, I mean, so obviously there's a lot of things that we could talk about in terms of AI art. We will respect the subreddits that we're on in terms of posting AI art or not posting AI art. Sorry about that. But Harrison has a couple of people that he wants to highlight in terms of messages that we received recently. Harrison, you want to take this?
Yeah, we had somebody reach out and said they started the podcast, and they were pretty new at the time. Now they said they're all already caught up, which is insane. But
love
seems
that.
To happen.
Love it. Love the dedication.
I love the bingers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He has a little theory about Brother Longfoot, and we were going to mention it last week, but we were unfortunately not able to. And shout out to him real quick. On whenever I responded back to him, I accidentally put an emoji in the middle of my paragraph because I pressed enter instead of spaces. So it kind of created a weird text. So sorry about that, man. But the Brother Longfoot theory goes is that he's like, Brother Longfoot's not a moron. He's been around the world a lot. He's been to many places. And maybe whenever he foolishly holds up a coin and is like, oh, look at all this money we got with Logan inside the back alleys. Maybe he was trying to test Logan's resolve and see what a good companion he was, if he was actually going to be a protector, or what he was in it for, if he was going to run away, or he's just going to kind of test his resolve. And that was the real reason that he did it, rather than him just being a moron. What do you guys think?
I like that. Yeah, because he, on one hand, how Joe introduces him, right? It seems like he's very oblivious to everything except for talking about his many remarkable talents, right?
But again, that could just be a complete character, couldn't it?
Could be for sure. I will say it does make sense from what he posited. I am a honey badger. What he posited was that just testing to see Logan's, let's just say, security capabilities. I would say Logan passed that test if that was the case, with flying colors. But I don't know. I mean,
my thought is that Brother Longfoot may have, and to be fair to him, I did not even consider this. Thought he was being a floof, but the guy's right. I mean, we do take him for granted. He's not an idiot, but he's like a moron. So he probably was like, oh, I'm gonna see what a good protector he is, but like didn't actually think it all the way through, and that's why they get into a tough situation because he was like, oh, I wonder if I could figure out what a tough guy is, but he also was not smart enough to realize that he just put them both in danger for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Like it would be in his prideful way to be like, I know what a good warrior is. And then,
I mean, I do reckon that they would have attacked him either way. Like,
right. But I don't
I
know.
mean, he was instigating, but we'll get into that another time. We're gonna go back to the Brother Longfoot theory, right? That's gonna be my next tinfoil.
Is Brother Longfoot a super genius? And thank you, I'm Honey Badger, for bringing that up to us. Because we definitely didn't. We always kind of push Brother Longfoot off, but he's not an idiot. He just doesn't have any social standing.
No, like social awareness.
Yes, yeah.
And there are people like that. They're really good at what they do.
Oh my God, is Brother autistic?
I think he's too enamored or obsessed with the idea of traveling. He's a Brother Longfoot is top tier wanderlust character. He's the kind of person that would fund and film his own eat, pray, love kind of movie, right? But in terms of setting Logan up to see his capabilities in terms of being a protector, I could kind of see it, but I don't know if I buy it just yet. I don't know. George?
Excellent thought.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like it. I mean, it's because it gives more, like just the idea of that gives more, I guess you could say, well-roundedness in terms of Longfoot's character, right?
Yes.
Be pretty cool. See if he was just like subtly just manipulating the circumstances around them. All right, let's see if Logan can be a good protector. He's incredibly violent. Okay, great. Let's see if Pharaoh is a good. Oh, she's just a bitch and she just hates everybody. Got it. Cool. Let's see if Baez is a astute. He's the guy that's leading this expedition. That's great. Oh, he just explodes people while he just got out of the bath, buck ass naked. Okay, interesting. He's probably taking down notes to take back to his brotherhood to inform to Mamoon.
Maybe. I think it's Mamoon. Maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe.
Probably just an indescript ether.
Yeah, but he did say, before he even got called onto the trip that Mamoon himself contacted them. I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely something we'll have to look into more. But initial thoughts is, I don't know, maybe both.
Maybe.
Also wanted to point out, this is kind of random, but I just saw this. I was scrolling through Reddit just a minute ago, but I thought it was perfect. Somebody said, "Can Glockta have sex?" And we actually addressed this in our very first episode.
Yep.
Does he have a penis?
And the conclusion was we had no fucking idea.
Yeah. I was of the belief, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, devoted, loyal listeners, that he has a penis and he puts it to work with his hand.
I actually found out the other day, and this is a pretty good example of this. Stephen Hawking, who had ALS, so his body was completely paralyzed, could still have sex.
Well, yeah, he went to Epstein's Island, dude.
Yeah. Maybe we don't talk about him. Maybe we don't.
But that's an extreme example. You can be completely paralyzed and you can still do the deed.
If I had to guess, it's just difficult for Glockta. You have to be very careful. Now, in the comments though as well, somebody said, this is just hilarious. Somebody said, "Why? Let's just say that in bed he's somewhat of a eater." And then the next response was, "A used to creed it was forbidden to eat the flesh of men. He never said anything about the quim of women."
The quim of women.
Somebody's like, "This is why I love Reddit." That's perfect.
Oh God.
One thing we're gonna have to say, he's an eater.
He knows all the laws in and out.
That's so fucking stupid, motherfucker.
That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot.
Join us next week as we cover Left Out and A Few Bad Men.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media, and we have a website at circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any podcast app that you use. And please make sure to rate and review this podcast. Thank you all again for listening.
A drink, a drink, a drink.